This is Barbara with Cana Girl Speaks podcast. My voice, your voice. Good evening, everybody. This is Barbara with the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. And I always say thank you for always supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Thank you for listening on any of the podcast apps. And just keep doing what you're doing and supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. And so this evening, I have a young gentleman that I asked to be on the podcast to kind of tell a little bit about himself and about his business and about things that he's doing for our community. So without further ado, I want to introduce to those out in watching on YouTube and listening on the podcast, Mr. Aric Bonner. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well, thank you for having me on. You know, it's one of those deals where it's always an honor to be asked to do something. You're doing big things. Now that you're all retired, you got all this extra time on your hands. So, don't know which direction to take it, but my name is Aric Bonner, and I am the broker and owner of the Bonner Group, which is a real estate brokerage in Corsicana. I've been doing real estate for 12 years. The first 12 years was with Remax of Corsicana. Now I've branched out doing my own thing, just trying to grow my real estate business. So, if people are looking for help, looking for advice, learning how to buy, sell real estate, I'd be glad to sit down and chat with you. It all starts with a conversation, right? It really starts with a dream. I want to do something. And, my background is finance and accounting as a chief financial officer for a couple Fortune 500 companies. So, really helping people to understand that financial piece is really important to me so they don't get in over their heads. Yeah. But also, I've sold, hundreds of homes over the last 12 years. So quite a bit of experience with that process. Not quite as active as you are maybe, but really active in the community. I've been the chairman of the board for the Chamber of Commerce, chairman of the board for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, started a nonprofit back in 2016 called DEFY, Dynamic Empowerment for Youth, which Barbara is vice president now, recently elected. Yeah. Board members have been very active since the very beginning. Just do a lot of stuff, chairman of the board for the Heritage Bowl, which is a Division II bowl game hosted here in Corsicana. We're always looking for sponsors. It's a great time. It's one of 3 Division II bowl games in the country, so we feel like it's a pretty big deal.
So the reason why I wanted to bring him on because, you've heard all his activities that he does. And I wanted to bring him on because we've been talking about leadership. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about the next generation of leaders in our community. And I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to talk to you about how do we motivate young people or just, people in general, how to be leaders in their communities, not just Corsicana, but, any other city or county. How do we motivate young people to be leaders?
That's a really interesting question. So, some people say that leaders are born. Mm-hmm. But I believe that they're born / trained. Yeah. The biggest challenge to being in a leadership position is being patient. I've been in this community for 20 years, and it's taken me about that long to figure out how do I connect with people, how do I lead people. Yeah. But the number one thing that I would say for a leader in any capacity is you got to have a servant's heart. You have to really have a desire to help people. So we had a conversation last night, Barbara and I did, along with a couple of board members, is, we really want to reach out to the people in Corsicana. And if you really want to learn how to get involved in your community and help us grow, just give us a call. I'd be glad to sit down and talk to you about the warts and the victories and what it takes to be an effective leader in this community, because we've got to train that next generation. She said, young man, I'm not that young. I just look like I'm young. But we've got to be able to reach back and help those, because the path is littered with off-ramps and obstacles, but we can help to smooth out some of those. And it's really about being connected to the right people and doing the right things.
So you mentioned also last night about the gap, and my whole thing is before I became a leader, I watched other leaders, mm-hmm. and I watched them and I patterned myself after them. I listened to them. I took their advice. And so now I'm like, okay, so who is coming behind me that I can give information to and they can watch me and pattern me. So, how can we, like I said, how can we reach back and grab those young people, or just, people in general in the community, and, how do we find those ones that we feel like, have that passion? Because you do have to have passion to be a leader. You can't do it for selfish reasons. You got to do it because it's about the community.
So I'm going to go off script for just a second. Not that we have a script, but I'm going to go off script. The one thing about community involvement is you've got to go into it with a true spirit and a desire to help.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the pay, because the pay is none. Zero. So it's really about you're wanting to make an impact in your community. That's why I do what I do in Corsicana, is because I want to make an lasting impression on our community.
Yeah.
So it's not about the pay, it's not about the prestige, it's not about the power, it's about none of that. It's about how do we make this community a better place for all of us to live. So the challenge that I laid out to Barbara and a couple others last night, so there's two ways to go about this. It could be somebody who's watching tonight that has a real desire to be active and not sure how to do that. So they contact either myself or Barbara, and we sit down and have a conversation. But the challenge I laid out last night was for Barbara and a couple other board members to identify 3 people each that they think would be somebody that wants to take that step, wants to go through the journey. And then we just bring them in, we sit down and we talk to them and we say, hey, look, these are the steps, this is the process. The thing that's often difficult to understand, which I've already said it once, but I'm gonna keep going back to it, is it takes time.
Yeah.
It's not a light switch.
No.
It's a long process. Your reward is intrinsic. You're not gonna get your name up in the bright lights. It's one of those deals where you really have to have a desire to help. Because one of the things that surprises a lot of people about me is I don't want to be in the front.
Yeah.
I don't want my name in the lights. I prefer to be working in the background, making sure that stuff's happening.
So you don't mind being a worker bee.
So I don't mind doing the work or directing the people that's doing the work. I don't have to be on the front page of the paper. I don't want to be on the front page of the paper. So you really have to have that servant's heart of wanting to really just make an impact. And it doesn't have to be community-wide. You may have your pet projects, right? You've picked a school district, and you're doing a fantastic job at the school district. So really, if you have a specific passion, the Chamber of Commerce has a leadership program. And, so you could go through that. You have to be nominated by your employer. But still, there are some leadership opportunities in the community. And like I said, just, associating yourself with people who are kind of already in that path that are willing to help, which I am, Barbara is. Yeah. So, it's a journey that you can take, but you have to be committed and you have to be doing it, I say, for the right reasons, which is to really help everybody.
So what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Man, that's a tough question. At the end of the day, I just want people to say, you know what? He was a good guy. He was fair to everybody. And when he left the place better than when he got here. And it's just fairly simple. Yeah,
that's simple, because sometimes people don't think about that. Even all the work that you do in the community, and like you said, you just want to be able to leave the place in a better shape. Because somebody left it for us.
Correct.
And so, is there any other advice you can give those that, like you said, can they reach out to you if they have a desire to do something, to help the community better? How can they reach out to you?
So you can either call me. My number is 903-654-7561. That is my cell phone number. I believe in answering my phone, so if I don't answer immediately, that means I'm in the middle of something, but I will get back to you. You can come by my office at 119 North Beaton, downtown Corsicana. That's another way to reach me. You can call me, you can text me, you can send me a carrier pigeon, whatever you want to do. I don't have a problem sitting down and talking, but just be prepared. I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to figure out exactly where you're coming from and what your goals are, and to make sure that, or to try to suggest that you're going in the right direction. And don't get it twisted about, what you're getting ready to do and that it's an easy path, because it's not. It takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes passion. It takes patience. I mean, first and foremost, it takes patience.
Well, for the benefit of those that are listening and watching on YouTube, just before we close out, why don't you say something positive about the future of our community?
You know,
I was all excited when he was kind of like, I mean, I'm a visionary, but he's kind of like making me excited. So just a few little,
there's a lot of nuggets. There's a lot of stuff going on in the community that most people don't realize, right? So economic development is a slow process. And, I've been involved with economic development for 20 years here in the community. We have an economic development collaborative the second Tuesday of each month at the library at 9 a.m. I know it's a tough time, but it's actually open to the public. Mm-hmm. And so I do the housing update every month of what housing looks like in Corsicana and Navarro County for that meeting, but also involved in other things in terms of economic development. The Heritage Bowl is a huge economic development, economic generator, which is why our board is there to really push, heads in beds and get Corsicana on the map. The game is televised worldwide, so really exposure for Corsicana. But one of the things I think that opened your eyes yesterday, or when we talked last night, which is kind of a surprise to me, but the last economic development meeting, they said that there's 125 new houses that permits have been pulled that are open right now.
Wow.
125 houses in Corsicana. Just to give you perspective, I think between the years of 2018 and 2021 that there were probably 125 new houses built. You've got 125 applications out right now.
Wow.
So it's kind of eye-opening. You've got a lot of development. If you just take a second and you step back and you get out of the right now and you just look and you think, 5 years ago, we didn't have a Chick-fil-A.
No, we didn't.
We didn't have a QT.
Mm-mm.
We didn't have a Denny's.
No.
We didn't. So you go down that list of things we didn't have just 5 years ago, and you go, wait a minute. I'm talking about how it's not growing. It's growing all around me, and I'm not noticing it.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is, because everybody's thinking it's a quick solution.
Yeah.
It's not. It takes time. I think that the development on I-45, which is a new Corsicana crossing on the west side of town, across from Walmart, that thing was platted 8 years ago. And everybody's like, man, it's just going crazy. I was like, yeah. But it was in neutral for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that economic development works, is it's not a light switch. I mean, you even go to Waxahachie and Ennis, and it looks like things happening overnight. They're not.
Yeah.
They've been in the works for a long time, and it just takes a while to get the financing right and get the city's approval and then get your contractors lined up. It's a long process.
So if you really want more information, he can explain it to you where you can understand the economic development process, because he has a lot of knowledge on that. And I just the whole communication we had on yesterday evening, I was just like, it was eye opening. So y'all reach out to him and get that info, and just talk to him, about if you have any questions. I mean, I think he can answer them.
I'd be glad to visit with you. I've got a world of experience in a lot of different areas. So I kind of joked with Barbara, which lane do you want me to get into? I've got experience in a lot of different areas. But real estate is what I do.
Yeah.
But also economic development, really pushing to help the community to grow. And it's been a great ride, but we're nowhere close to where we're going to be when we get finished.
But it's coming. So
it's on the way.
It's on the way. Well, Mr. Bonner, Aric Bonner, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the Cana Girl Speaks podcast.
Well, thank you. And you know what? I'm never too busy for any referrals. So if you got some folks that want to come visit with me, I'd be glad to chat with them.
Okay. Well, I always give my guests an opportunity to give their shout outs to anybody I'd like to give their shout outs to. So who would you like to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to all those people in Corsicana that are working hard trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
This is a community of doers, a community of great people. And so I'm hoping that at the end of this podcast that somebody out there listening gives me a call to figure out how do I become a part of the solution as we go forward.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, to all those that are listening and watching, thank you. Thank you again for supporting the Cana Girl Speaks podcast. Y'all have a good evening and a good week, and we'll see you soon.
This is a Legacy Recording Studio production.